This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience.
War Eagle Auburn fans, and welcome to Tiger Tracks, your source for Auburn track and field and cross-country news and discussion. I'm your host, Jessica, and I'm here with my wonderful husband, Kyle, to discuss the Penn Relays.
The most wonderful time of the year for Jessica and her track and field joys in life.
You know, it used to be, and then I'll be quite honest. I was reading some things about Auburn and about our wonderful coach, and my bubble got burst a little bit about the Penn Relays because Coach Burrell, despite his personal success at the Penn Relays, felt that this was not the best meet for heavy competition for our teammates.
Well, that just sours this whole. We spent all the weeks leading up to this, building up the Penn Relays, and you're telling me
it really hurt my heart.
It was awful.
I didn't say it was awful. He was very professional and said it in such a kind way, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. But basically, he said that it's a great place, but it's not always the best competition.
So this would be something, at least this year, where we look at more celebrating the history of it and what it means for the sport, as opposed to what it means for the actual season. Even though what happens there is important during the season, maybe not the most important. Because think about it, this is, I believe, the last week leading up to the start of postseason play. Am I correct on that?
Well, does SEC championship count as postseason?
Yes. Postseason is when you move into conference and true postseason play.
Well, you taught me something new today.
That's what I consider it.
Oh, that's a Kyleism? Okay, well, we can move on from that.
Most people would say, like, when basketball goes to the SEC tournament, that's postseason play, too.
Oh.
Because it's not guaranteed. The only thing you're guaranteed is your regular season. So
you're not guaranteed in track and field to go to the SEC championship?
No, it's not what I'm saying. But like,
oh, okay. Anyway, back to Penn Relays.
I tried to bring the other sports into it just to kind of put it in layman's terms. Apparently it didn't work.
No.
Sorry.
So, before actually we get to the Penn Relays, let's talk about one athlete that did not travel to Penn.
Which may show why Coach Burrell thought that this wasn't the best overall competition if he sent him somewhere else.
So, Azim Fahimi competed in the East Coast Relays, placed 6th overall out of 75 athletes in the 100-meter dash with a time of 10.14 seconds, which is his collegiate best time. And also, if he had competed at Penn in this event, he would have won by 0.4 of a second.
It just kind of shows you right there. And for context, too, we've talked about that Coach Burrell personally has high standards because of where he competed, I'm sure, and the times that he put up here. But think about what he kind of judges that particular side of the competition on, too. If he has had that great success there, and then he still sent his best athlete in that particular sprint event somewhere else.
Absolutely. It just kind of shows you that he is really invested in these athletes and not just invested in a let's all travel as a team, which is a great thing to be cohesive and, do that team bonding and stuff. But it's also really important to know each individual athlete's strength and know where they are going to individually compete at their peak and make sure that they've got opportunities outside of just college, too. I really appreciate the emphasis that he and all of the coaching staff have put on that because it's not just a Coach Burrell show. This is Auburn's entire coaching staff for track and field.
And it's not a foreign concept for us to have a lot of split meets in a season, but I do feel like we've talked about it more this season. And so you've probably seen that, a higher concentration on getting particular athletes where they need to be at their particular level of competition to get them set up for the best possible scenario as individuals and as a team heading into SECs, heading into regionals, heading into actual NCAA championships if people make it there.
Absolutely. So now let's go back to Penn. Let's talk about that because that is the vast majority of our athletes. Like I said, it was just that one.
The glorious Penn Relays with a plaque of naked men on it.
Not necessarily plaque. It's on the medals.
The medals, excuse me. And
so,
they're not actually naked, are they?
We're about to talk about these medals. They are naked.
Okay.
I'm going to pull it up for all of you people that are not here.
Be careful what you're Googling there.
Penn Relays medals?
Yeah.
You think that's bad?
It may not be safe for work at this point.
What?
I'm just saying. We just described what is on the medals.
It's, okay.
I'm looking at them now. Yeah. That's some butt naked men right there.
Yeah, there used to be.
It is safe for work though.
There was a reason that it's like these men or
Well,
something.
because isn't it supposed to be very based on, Olympics? There was some of kind of that imagery too about the human form and showing that off, the physiques and stuff like that. Like if you see like a lot
Why
of
is it just the men's physique
and the
then?
women's physique, I'm just saying, like, yeah.
The good news is all you see are butts.
Why is Ben Franklin, who is clearly dressed and they are not? That
makes it way weirder.
I'm honestly right now questioning everything that we've ever talked about
before. If you are not driving, but you are listening, please immediately go Google Penn Relays medals, because this is the most god-awful thing.
Why is Ben Franklin clothed and they are not? That's all I want to know.
But honestly, okay, all right. Well,
wow.
we will search that up later. The good news is it is not pornographic. It is just more anatomically correct. And all you see is a butt.
And they are clearly naked.
But again, all you see are butts.
Wow.
And only one of them.
We've had some tangents in our lifetime on this show. That is probably one of the best ones right there. Because it happened live. And there's no editing that out.
I'm just saying. All right. Anyway, Penn Relay, naked
all right.
men.
Here
we are.
you recover.
Great news.
I'll do the highlights for you and kind of recover.
Well,
that.
we gotta talk about where and when.
I'm just trying to move past it at this point. Go ahead.
So Penn Relays, April 27th through the 29th. It actually was like, I think the 25th through the 29th, but the first 2 days were high school athletes competing. This was obviously in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, at Franking Field, which now I'm starting to think was named after Ben Franklin, and I've never put that together because I am a blonde idiot.
I plead the
fifth.
So,
here we are on Things Jessica Should Have Known But She Didn't podcast.
And maybe we learned a lesson not to Google during the middle of a show, too.
Yeah, so just firing on all cylinders, as Kyle would say. This is his fault for making us record late in the day.
And if only they knew this was the second take of the podcast, too.
Yeah, also that's your fault, too. So everything is Kyle's fault, but we love him dearly.
Except for you Googling the medal, and now we have...
The naked men.
Yes. All right, so the 15,000 competitors, high school, college, track clubs, otherwise, but on top of that...
All over the world, but on top of that, this facility can house 100,000 spectators. Not can house, it had.
Had 1,000. I'm just saying, like, that's the capability. Because like we had mentioned on the first take of this podcast, you may not have 100,000 there the entire time or...
Correct. So
specific days.
For this past weekend, or the weekend that this event occurred, there were 100,000 spectators the last 3 days of competition.
There you go.
So Kyle tried to say it. Which probably means that the very last day, I would bet, had 50,000 people watching.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
if you're going to go, like, no offense, but I'm not going for day one. I am going for those finals. I want to see it all. I want to see the best of the best. I love everybody equally. But if I'm going out there with 100,000 other people trying to park in the middle of Philadelphia, I want to see the best of the best.
It's fair enough. Get the full experience if you're going to go to something historic and unique, as we've just discussed, an event.
Yeah, so
like
why don't
this.
you tell about the highlights before we get down a rabbit hole?
Yes, okay. The highlights for the Penn Relays. Quite a few to talk about. Mo and Poke won the men's 100-meter hurdles with a time of 49.81 seconds. So a gold medal right off the top. Maddie Malone got
that gold naked medal.
Here, you just said we weren't going to derail this show. And
well,
then
it's my
one
show.
highlight in.
I'm allowed to derail things.
We're never going to make it out of this show. Maddie Malone got second place in the women's hammer throw with a throw of 66.93 meters.
The men's distance medley relay. Kyle, did you watch this?
I did not.
Because the final lap, really the final 200, was all over everything. It was on Insta. I assume it was on Twitter because I'm not there. It was on Facebook. It was on all of the platforms because that final, when Ryan Kinane came down that straightaway, he was tied up with Clemson and some other school that I don't remember because they are irrelevant because they got third place now. Ryan was right there. Back, he was in with the 3, but he'd been with them the whole time. That final 50, he had this kick. I mean, Kyle, it was like The final kick
did see
that
this.
dreams are made of.
And explain what a kick is, again, for those people that don't know.
If you don't know, you don't need to be listening to this podcast.
No, Jessica, this is not how you win people over to your sport. So
I'm not going to win anybody. We've talked about naked men and how I don't want to live in Philadelphia. So we're not winning anybody.
for the layman's term out there, a kick would be like a second wind, the last part of the
Your
race.
final sprint.
Your final burst
your
of
coup de
energy.
grace,
Yes.
Your everything.
Yes.
So the last 100 meters, but really that last 50, Ryan, a distance runner, came from out of nowhere. It was just like lightning.
I do remember seeing this now on Twitter, and it got posted everywhere.
I'm telling you, it was everywhere. And his picture at the end, it was like this glorious moment, like everything you want a track and field win to be, with his arms in the air. He just has this like exhausted but happy smile on his face. It was just like perfect.
Well, thank you for painting that picture for us.
Also, let's be clear. It was a relay. Ryan finished the race that all of his teammates had started.
Absolutely.
It took all 4 of them to win that.
Yes.
So awesome, great, wonderful. They got that gold. They got that creepy medal. But they also got the fastest Auburn distance medley relay in 32 years.
Records and everything, PRs, everything in between is just dropping left and right, even at Penn Relays for Auburn right now. It's awesome.
Another relay team, women's 4x200 meter, got second place, silver medal.
Still good, especially on the big stage like the Penn Relays. Alyssa Quinones-Mixon broke her own freshman record in the pole vault. I do remember seeing this on social media. With a vault of 4.13 meters. She won the event. Sanaa Barnes won the women's high jump with a jump of 1.83 meters. And then Mara Hewalt won the women's discus with a throw of 51.81 meters. So lots of wins, especially some really significant historical ones.
Yes, and I think you're going to see, as we get into all the results, there were a lot of positive things. So I only hit a few of the highlights, but we're about to get through everything.
Everything, all the enchilada, so to speak.
Okay.
I don't know where that came from. Just keep moving.
The whole enchilada?
Yes, just keep moving.
I bet Ben Franklin didn't eat enchiladas.
What? Just, oh my goodness, this podcast.
Men's
y'all.
100 meter dash. We've already talked about Azim Fahimi, who was not at Penn. He was at the East Coast Relays.
Yep.
But like I said before, he got 6th out of 75 competitors with his fastest time of 10.14 seconds.
Look at that. He shaved off 0.16 of his time. No?
0.18.
0.18, excuse me.
You tried to do math and it failed.
How's that 0.18? Oh, 0.18. Yeah, that's the correct math there. Regardless of my incorrect math, that's impressive.
It is impressive. It's more 0.18 is even more impressive.
Yes.
So then we had Charlie Sexton competing in the men's 100 meter at Penn. There were 22 competitors. He got 21st place with a time of 11.29 seconds.
Yeah, and everything from this point should be Penn Relays, correct?
Yes. Azim was the only competitor not at Penn.
Gotcha.
So for the men's 400 meter hurdles, as Kyle said earlier, Mo and Poke got first out of 29 competitors with a time of 49.81 seconds.
We've already talked about the medley. We'll talk about him again in just a second. But first, the men's 4x400. Luke Roberts, LeBron Bessick. Luke Roberts again, apparently, because that's maybe a typo. So apologies to the third person. And Mo and Poke on that team. I tell you, folks, this episode is just
freaking failing.
Anyway, that team plus a fourth one, which we don't know what it is, 13th out of 19, 3 minutes, 17.8 seconds. An impressive time, but it is not the fastest that Auburn has run in the 4x400
And you know
season.
probably why? Because Luke had to run 2 legs.
Yes.
According to my notes, he ran first leg and third leg, so he was pretty tired.
I would imagine so. At least he had one in between him, you know?
I mean, you know.
All right, the men's distance relay, medley relay. Louis
DMR.
Yes. Thank you for
That's
that.
what it's called, the DMR.
I know, it just threw me off for a second there. Louis O'Loughlin, Matthew Rayner, Rex Green, and Ryan Kinane. And you, I guess, broke it down by what they each ran here.
So yes,
why
so
don't
the
you just
DMR
take
it is weird. I used to hate running the DMR because I was always second leg because I was the 400. So the first leg is a 1,200 meter run, which is 3 laps around the track.
Okay.
Second leg is 400 meter, 1 lap. Third leg is an 800 meter, 2 laps. And the fourth leg is a mile, 1,600 meters, so 4 laps. So you go 3 laps, 1 lap, 2 laps, 4 laps.
Why would you just build
Dude,
up or
I
go
don't
down?
know.
To me,
there's probably logic behind this. I mean, there's definitely logic behind it. But my guess, and this is not scientific, this is Jessica. I'm assuming that if you did it, 4, 8, 12, 16.
One more time.
You would have it would give less opportunity for teams to split like where they are.
Sure.
Okay. So if you have a heavy distance team,
Yeah.
somebody running the 400 is going to be a real big wild card.
Yeah.
And you might not have a good 400 meter runner.
Okay.
So that's why you kind of want it to be in the middle, right? Spice it up a little. And then your fastest leg is probably going to be that mile.
See, to me, it would be a lot more exciting to have it start with the longest and go to the shortest for the most,
Oh, you want long to short.
Yeah.
I kind of like this. The chaos, it just seems so random. But it was the facts. Like you Google DMR and that's the order always. So I don't know. Stop asking me
But
questions.
what we do know is that
they got a gold.
Right, which we've already talked about. 9 minutes, 42.5 seconds.
Amazing.
32-year record. Gone.
Broken.
All the way gone.
And I think they have the 5th place for best time.
Oh, like overall?
5th best in Auburn history.
Oh, in Auburn history. Okay, I was about to say
Not
Penn
in
Relays.
the world.
I was about to say, that's impressive. Why did we make a bigger deal about that if they had the 5th in Penn Relays history?
Okay, well, anyway.
All right, the men's hammer throw. We've got a few
my
people
turn
to
to
talk
actually
about.
talk
I'll
about
talk
this.
about the throwing things because I like the throwing
Oh.
things. You kind of took over my distance medley
You
thing
just
there.
want to talk about your Kyles.
Yes, that's true. Kyle Brown, 5th overall out of 12, 65.56 meters, followed up by Kyle Moyson right behind him, 6th out of 12, 65.55 meters. Literally 0.01 less than,
More or less.
more if you're talking about Kyle Brown. That can get really confusing.
Dude, I can't handle the 2 Kyles and you, Kyle. It is too much.
Eric Ebel, 7th out of 12, 65.45. So our big crew there, the ones we always talk about, the Kyles and Eric are continue to be right. We talked about running in a group and distance running a lot. They throw together in a group.
Literally. Oh, 5th, 6th, 7th. That's amazing.
Yes.
Then, speaking of amazing again, Dontavius Hill continues to kill it. Got a bronze medal. 3rd out of 9 competitors with a jump of 2.15 meters.
Mm-hmm.
For the women's 400-meter hurdles, we only had one competitor. Abasiano Akpan placed 5th out of 31 competitors with a time of 57.39 seconds.
And I'm going to be honest, I think we've been saying Jean's last name in this next event wrong all season, so I'm going to change it again, and I'm sorry if it's still wrong. But the women's 1,500-meter run, Jean Keatsy, I think is how it's said.
Okay.
Not Kotsy, Keatsy. 29th out of 31, 4 minutes, 27.5 seconds, which is almost her best time of the year. Almost.
That was a weirdly competitive event at Penn. I don't understand why, because normally Jean is really high, closer to the top of the pack, right?
Right.
So that was a really weirdly competitive event.
Which kind of shows you when we were talking about the comments by Coach Burrell, or he's telling the truth about how he feels about it, but maybe there's still pretty stiff competition in some areas. But the ones he was really wanting to push some of his best athletes in, like Azim Fahimi, obviously had to send him somewhere else. The women's 4x200. Here's your team: Nia Benton-Andrews,
We hope.
Shantae Clinkscale, Amara Sharp, and Ariana Sharp. We've talked about the Sharp sisters a lot. 2nd out of 18 teams, 1 minute, 37.9 seconds.
And just to paint a picture, this is the first time that we've had a 4x2 team.
Yeah,
this
I know.
season.
When I saw that on our notes,
I know.
I thought you'd messed up already.
Wow.
But I mean,
I did mess up in a lot of things. It just wasn't there.
Yeah, well,
Here we are.
Here we are keeping a list of wrongs.
Doesn't the Bible say we should not
I'm
do
just
that?
kidding. I'm just kidding.
The women's 4x4, an amazing event. We had Amira Sharp, Ariana Sharp, Layla Hasbrook, and Abasiano Akpan placing 7th out of 18 teams with a time of 3 minutes, 35.8 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this team almost every single meet, the vast majority of meets.
Yes.
What I really love here, we've talked about it all the time, but I'm going to say it one more time because it is important to say. every time they are rearranging the order.
Right.
Trying to make sure they've got the exact right.
Getting ready for postseason.
Yes. But just making sure that they've got it right, Never settling that this is the best we can do. That I really appreciate that.
Well, and so, okay, look at this, because obviously when we talk about this to you, the listeners, you can't see our notes in front of us. But what we're looking at is all the times that they've run and we don't have the exact orders, but basically the team has run. And if you look how it progresses, it gets faster and faster. And then the last time it took a big dip. And so they obviously either changed something back or did something different and got back to right in the middle of where they were before.
Yeah.
So you can see, like you said, adjusting, trying to figure out what's best for postseason.
Yep. So the fastest they've ever been is 3 minutes, 32 seconds. This time they were 3 minutes, 35 seconds.
Yeah.
So 3 seconds difference.
Whatever didn't work last week was clearly fixed.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. So for women's discus, I'm going to take over a couple of throwing events since you talked about the men. Women's discus, we've got Mara Hewalt placing first out of 6 competitors with a throw of 51.81 meters.
Mm-hmm.
Women's hammer throw, Maddie Malone, second out of 15 competitors, 66.93 meters.
Mm-hmm. I'll take over at the jumping because it's a gold medal. Women's high jump, Sanaa Barnes. We've already talked about her. First out of 10, 1.83 meters, her best of the season. Very, very nice. Now some more throwing things. My favorite event, the javelin throw. Sanaya Holly, 13th out of 15, 41.86 meters. Not her best of the season, but still good performance at the Penn Relays. The women's long jump, Shantopa Bright, 7th out of 9, 5.87 meters.
For women's pole vault, we already talked about Alyssa Quinones-Mixon getting first out of those 13 competitors with her lifelong best, PR, 4.13 meters, the new freshman record. We'll see if she beats it again at the SECs because she's already beaten it 2 times.
Right.
Then we had Lexi Lena Weber and Rhiannon Held compete in the pole vault open, I'm going to say.
I was about to say, I read this wrong. I thought it was going to be a podium sweep and you didn't make a bigger deal about it, but I see now.
No,
I understand.
They were in a separate category. So Lexi got second in her event out of 16 competitors with a vault. I almost said a throw. We are not throwing the pole vault. With a vault of 3.93 meters. And Rhiannon Held got third out of 16 with a vault of 3.78 meters. For the women's shot put, we had Mara Hewalt placing 7th out of 12 competitors with a throw of 16.01 meters. And finally, our last event to talk about was the women's triple jump. Our one competitor, Amy Warren, placed 3rd out of 12 competitors, got that bronze creepy medal with a jump of 12.84 meters.
You brought it back around at the end.
Always. You know, it's kind of like a book.
Yeah.
You got to bookend it.
Yeah.
Creep and creep. Bam.
Okay.
It's our show.
So without the creepy parts of this podcast and this event, did this Penn Relays live up to what you thought it might be?
So, I'll be honest.
A little disappointed?
There was it felt like there were less Auburn competitors than normal.
Yeah.
So, am I disappointed? Absolutely not. We had so many medals. We had a new freshman record after she already beat her own freshman record, which is even more amazing. We had a distance medley relay win. We had 400-meter hurdles, good placement. We had 100-meter dash. We had all the things. We had a new 4x200-meter team for the women. Like, I'm not disappointed at all. I just normally it feels like after Penn, we have a lot more to talk about.
I did see, when you gave me the notes this week and I looked them over, I was like, oh, this feels like it's a shorter list.
Yeah.
But I was like, well, maybe it's because it's, we're only sending the best of the best of the best there. And we did, obviously, because we're Auburn Tigers are always the best of the best. We believe that with our orange and blue glasses on. So,
Kyle believes that.
we believe that in spirit.
We believe in Auburn and love it.
Oh, yes. So regardless, it's always fun to talk about the Penn Relays.
It is. And I'm going to go probably look at some Penn Relay highlights now.
You should.
Yes. So, as we've mentioned earlier, the next meet is the SEC Track and Field Championships, May 11th through 13th in Baton Rouge, Louisiana at LSU, which we hate.
And can I just say this? For any Auburn fans going to support our Tigers down there,
We pray for you.
Jessica's not going to understand this. Most of you probably listening to this aren't going to understand this.
You're
But
going to talk about corn dogs?
No, in a sense. If you paid attention this week to other sports with Auburn and LSU, LSU people got their feelings hurt a little bit. Y'all just be careful; they can't handle too much ribbing, and they're a little sensitive right now. Just if you were on social media this week, you know what I'm talking about. So just shout out to the LSU fans out there. Grow is fine.
And if you're in the dark like me, I still hope that y'all will be safe in LSU, and we look forward to talking about the SEC Championship. War Eagle.
War Eagle. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode on the E2C Network. On your way out, I want to remind you to stop by e2cnetwork.com. It's your one-stop shop for all our content across our podcast, YouTube channel, and much more. To stay up to date with us, make sure you're following social media accounts such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. While our content here may always be Auburn sports heavy, if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. War Eagle.